Hi, this video will walk you through how to write essays for college. We'll practice using the assignment for this week, the essay response to the racial childcare divide. The process of writing an essay for college has a lot in common with the process for writing a discussion post, including how you start. The first and maybe the most important thing that you'll do when you're writing an essay for college is to look at the prompt. What is the question? Here's the prompt for the essay due this week. According to Cooper, what are the differences between Black and white parenting styles, and why do they exist? How does race affect the way that you interact with children? These questions might be familiar to you, and that's because I asked you to write some sample discussion posts about them last week. So in terms of what you have to write for the content of the essay, most of it you've already done. When you look at a prompt for an essay, the first thing you need to do is figure out how many different questions are in the prompt. Most essay prompts have more than one question. This one has 3. The first question it asks is, what are the differences between Black and white parenting styles? The second one is, why do they exist? They being the differences. The third one is, how does race affect the way that you interact with children? If the essay prompt has 3 questions, that means your essay is going to have 3 sections. It might mean that there are just 3 paragraphs, or the sections might be a little bit longer than a paragraph, but you know that you have to have 3 different sections in your essay because you have to answer 3 different questions. When you're writing an essay, you're going to write a paragraph or more to answer each question. Writing a paragraph or more for each question is almost exactly the same as the process of writing a discussion post. You're just going to be writing more and longer because this is an essay. We start with a messy list, getting ready to write. Then, looking at the messy list, come up with a 1-sentence answer to the question. Then, turn your messy list into college sentences. And finally, check your writing by making sure you have college sentences, that you've run spell check, and that everything makes sense. So if I were going to write the first section of my essay for this prompt, what are the differences between Black and white parenting styles? I would start by making a messy list for that question. Since I have to answer a question about the essay, the racial childcare divide, I'm going to open my messy list in a Google Doc on one side, and then I'm going to look at the article on the other side. So I'll be reading to answer the question, what are the differences between Black and white parenting styles? I'm just going to start scanning the text to see if I can see anything about these differences. So I'm going to start with this example. Of a white parent who does not discipline her child. And the Black parents who see this disapprove. That's the first difference. Then she says that this child is getting a message from not being disciplined. The world is yours to explore. Okay, I have a pretty good list of the differences that Brittany Cooper mentions. That's my first step, the messy list. Now I'm going to work on my 1-sentence answer so that I can start writing my paragraph or paragraphs that answer this question. Here's my sentence. White children are allowed a lot of freedom, but Black children are more disciplined. I didn't take any words directly from the text, so I don't have to worry about paraphrasing, but I did forget to name the writer, so let me add that now. According to Cooper, white children are allowed a lot of freedom, but Black children are more disciplined. That's my 1-sentence answer. The next step is to turn my messy list into college sentences. I'll start with the example that Cooper wrote in her article. So I've started by paraphrasing that first sentence from my messy list, the example of the white child running around on the subway and the Black parents disapproving. And I added that sentence, making sure to say that this is Cooper's. So I say Cooper gives the example and Cooper also disapproved. Now I'm ready to go to the next part. I'm just going to work through my messy list, changing the things into college sentences as support, details, and examples for my section of my essay paragraph. Okay, now I've taken everything from my messy list, I've turned it into college sentences, and I've made sure that every sentence includes something like Cooper said, or Cooper writes, or according to Cooper, so it's clear where this information is coming from. Now that I've turned my messy list into college sentences, I need to go back and check my writing. I'm going to remove my messy list. Then I'm going to run spell check by going to Tools, Spelling and Grammar. And much, okay. And I see that I made a punctuation mistake when I read this again. I forgot to make a capital letter. And there's another grammar mistake. Okay, this looks better now. What I just wrote is the first section of my essay. It happens to be one paragraph, but if I wrote more than one paragraph, that would be okay. This is the first section, the section that answers the first question in the prompt, the question about differences. My next step is to go to the next two questions in the prompt and to answer those in the same way. I'll make a messy list for each until I have 3 sections for my essay, one for each of the questions. When I'm finished, it looks like this. I have my differences section, my why they exist section, and the section that's about my experience. I left these section headers here because I think it will make it easier when my professor goes to read the essay. And I always think about what will make my professor happy. Remember that the sections or the paragraphs should be at the same order as the questions in the prompt. So the first section answers that first question about what the differences are. The second section answers the second question, why are those differences there? And then the third section answers that third question, what is my experience? Before I hand in my essay, I need to add an introduction paragraph to the beginning of my essay. The introduction should just be a 1 or 2 sentence answer to the prompt. A mistake that students make a lot is that they make their introductions too long. They try to include big stories or quotations or definitions, and that's not really necessary. A good introduction for an essay is just 1 or 2 sentences that says what the essay is going to be about. Here's an example of an introduction that I could use for this essay. Cooper believes that white parents are less strict with their children because white children have more freedom in the world. This does not match my experience as an early childhood education teacher. In this introduction, I was careful to cover all 3 of the questions that are in the prompt. What I mean by that is that I answered the first question, what are the differences? I said white parents are less strict. Why do they exist? Because white children have more freedom. And how does race affect the way you interact with children? This does not match my experience. A great introduction covers all of the questions that are in the prompt and gives a quick, simple answer to those questions. Not too much detail, not much information, just the quickest, simplest possible answer to each of the questions. Remember, you shouldn't include extra details or examples in the introduction. The introduction is designed to be fast and give a general overview of your essay. When I add my introduction to the beginning of the essay, before my first header, differences, you can see that it's just 2 sentences long, really short, right at the top. In addition to an introduction, A good college essay should also have a conclusion paragraph at the end. A conclusion paragraph is the most boring part of the essay because it is the exact same information as the introduction. You basically take your introduction and you paraphrase yourself. You change the words, use synonyms, change the order, but don't say anything new. Do exactly what you did in the introduction and put it in the conclusion. On the left is my introduction. On the right, you can see how I paraphrased my introduction with the same information. I just put it in a different order. I changed the words around, but it's the same meaning. I put my conclusion at the end of my essay with no header. Don't write conclusion as the header for your conclusion. Just stick it right there at the end of your paper. Just like your introduction, your conclusion shouldn't have anything else in it. Nothing new, nothing detailed, and nothing specific. Never add new stuff to the conclusion. Sometimes students like to add extra opinions, extra thoughts, things that they didn't put in the rest of the essay. Don't do that. Your conclusion, just like your introduction, should be a short, general summary of what you just wrote with nothing added. To review, here's the structure of a college essay. It starts with the introduction, which is a 1 or 2 sentence answer to the prompt. It's followed by the paragraphs or sections. You should have 1 section for each question in the prompt. In this essay, there will be 3 sections because there are 3 questions in the prompt. Finally, the conclusion, which is exactly the same as the introduction, but in different words. If you want to go back into Brightspace and use the discussion paragraphs that you wrote last week to answer these questions for the essay, that's fine. I don't care if you use the same content again. Remember to make sure that your essay is in college format before you hand it in. I'm going to edit, select all, Times New Roman, which is the font we should always hand papers in, size 12, and double spaced. It's common for headers to be in bold. I'll also be adding my name and the class. When you finish your essay, submit it by uploading it to Brightspace. If you're not sure how to do that, check out the lecture on uploading and downloading. Good luck on your essay.